Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and appreciate you stopping by. The Tobin and Leroy show is going to come at you this weekdays, every single weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the QAM YouTube page and Twitch, free on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app, and, of course, on regular old FM radio 104.3. So check us on out there, man. Appreciate you all. And I don't normally do multiple Dolphins videos on a game day, but there's been such a firestorm around the post-game comments because typically I don't wait for the post-game comments. I typically just the game speaks enough for me. But we have ourselves another Tua podium controversy, which have become all too common this year. And this one involves Tua being asked about how the team can, how can they avoid, a woe is me attitude. He was asked by Omar Kelly, who, of course, is the fine reporter from the fine Miami Dolphins columnist from the Miami Herald, and, of course, featured every week on Game Day Uncensored, my former Game Day Uncensored co-host, was asking Tua a question, and it goes down a road where Tua is letting it be known about accountability and leadership, and then reveals that some players aren't showing up to these player-only meetings. Now, just for some context on this, he is referring to players-only meetings. And what's been going on is the Miami Dolphins players, in addition to their regular meetings, have been meeting separately as position groups or together, and have been just going over some extra factors. You may remember this week, Kenneth Grant kind of revealed, even though if it was probably inadvertent, that coaches have even been sitting in player-led meetings, which was a little strange because they're player meetings. So Mike McDaniel had to discuss this past week on Friday, I believe, that was at some players' request, that they wanted coaches in there so that we're all on the same page, even though that's what I think team meetings are for, that they're all on the same page, and, that's what they're trying to do. Now, none of this has mattered. The Dolphins have dropped to 1-5, and they have been, unable to complement each other in any kind of way. Defense gets the offensive stop, offense heads toward disaster. Last 2 weeks, Tua and the offense have put the defense in position to go get the win. They can't do it. So, do any of these meetings matter? I don't know. But that's not really the point of this. And I'll explain why, but I want to play the exchange of what Tua said that's getting so much attention. It's getting unbelievable reaction all over the place. Former players are weighing in, people not associated with the Dolphins, and so here's what's going on.
Keep this team from taking a woe is me mentality like this keeps happening to us situation.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
To be clear, you're saying some players were late or missed?
Late, yeah. Yep.
All right. So, couple things. Obviously, this is something that's very annoying to Tua. Tua is annoyed that whoever isn't showing up to these meetings, I don't know who's not showing up to these meetings. Tua's obviously very annoyed by it because they're trying to be all on the same page. They're trying to be more professional. And for those who haven't been caught up in Dolphins land, I imagine most Dolphin fans are. But mind you, it was a big issue last year for team meetings that guys would either be late or skipping or being late for practices. Just overall professionalism for the Dolphins seemed to really suck last year. And it is given this impression that the Miami Dolphins are really, really unraveling, that they do not believe in their coach. There's no structure in the organization. But the thing that obviously makes this notable is Tua is simply pointing this out from a players only perspective. And if you're still having these issues, not even not respecting the coach, but you guys can't even respect each other, even if it's not mandatory, I would feel like usually if we're getting a group amongst ourselves, if we make a point to meet amongst ourselves, we're not being called in by corporate, I'm not being called in by a manager. If I have a meeting amongst the group that I'm with, those are the meetings that you typically will almost respect the most. And it sounds like that's just not the case with the Dolphins. Now, I don't know what that's supposed to say with this team and how much everybody is backing each other or believing in one another, but it's very obviously not a great look. Does Tua have to put it out in public and make it everybody's business? I suppose not, but that's really just been his nature. He has gone out here and he is, been overly sharing on all of these press conferences and has not been holding back his feelings. And I think from my standpoint, my only criticism here for Tua is it's twofold. One, okay, if you have a problem with players showing up or showing up late for meetings, why you, as the leader, A1, QB1 of the team, highest paid player on the team, the face of the franchise, why aren't you getting that respect from the players? Why is that an issue? Because that to me is weird. That Tua is in a position that he's in. Because this is not a locker room now. If this was last year, I could see it. But this is a thing right now where I don't really understand, because how many guys on that locker room really have more credentials than Tua at this very point? Not many. If you really to look up and down the roster, you'd say, all right, just by vets, Waller, Minka Fitzpatrick, Bradley Chubb. Is that the list? Like, are there other people that are Alec Ingold? Alec Ingold seems like he loves meetings. I couldn't imagine. Alec Ingold seems like he buys the snacks for a meeting. I can't imagine him missing a meeting, let alone being late. He seems like the guy that's like putting out the napkins and bought donut holes for everybody, and is just like gets one of those giant like coffee mugs for everybody. That's Alec Ingold to me, so I can't see it being him. Should be noted, Jordan Brooks was also asked about this when he wasn't, sliding down defenders like a fireman down a pole. Here was his comments or no comments about the situation.
Tua said that there's players that are late to player-only led meetings or not showing up to meetings. As one of the leaders on this team, are you seeing that as well? Is it something that needs to be mandatory for you guys, or what's going on with those meetings?
Nothing. I don't have a comment on that, honestly.
Okay. Now, this player-only meeting thing has been fascinating because, by the way, it's not only a thing with the Dolphins. Typically, back around all day, player meetings, like you'd rarely hear about this. When you heard players-only meeting, it usually meant, not great. I think famously right now in the NFL, the most famous player meetings we're hearing about is with the Philadelphia Eagles and their star offensive players, yeah? That A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts supposedly had a very spirited player-only meeting that A.J. Brown, dismissed and then had to come to Twitter and all this type of stuff. But we don't typically hear a lot. The Dolphins, we've been hearing a lot about players meeting amongst themselves. Then coaches have to get involved. And now Tua is saying, well, yeah, people are being late to that too. And the thing that's not great about that is, okay, you already had issues last year with people being accountable for the coaches' meetings. And that's not just a culture, that's just a lack of professionalism. That's unacceptable. But now you have these other meetings where it was like, I would feel like as a team, it would be implied like, okay, I gotta, I'm gonna be at this thing whether I want to be or not. Like, I gotta show face. And by the way, whether or not that's gonna help the team or not help the team, I don't freaking know. I'm not a football player. But the fact that the quarterback is so perturbed by it, he has to put it out there, is obviously not great. And the other thing is, I don't know how great a look it is for him because as many players came out today, there are people who are saying like, well, this seems like an indictment of you if people aren't willing to follow you for these things. So you have Mitchell Schwartz, who is a former champion with the Kansas City Chiefs, former All-Pro. He said, isn't he telling on himself? He is the leader of the team, and the guys aren't showing up for player-only meetings. This has nothing to do with coaches, front office, etc. Players-only meetings are governed by players. Very weird for him to talk about and admit, which, by the way, by Jordan Brooks kind of no-selling it, is kind of true. Now, Tua is a little bit of a different bird. Tua is super honest. He's an oversharer. And he really hasn't had the button go off in the head of I should stop talking about this at all. Andrew Whitworth, of course, Thursday Night Football, former champion with the Rams. He just goes, woof, that's on you, bud. I'm like, damn, that's on him? That's rough, dude. You have Des Bryant. Des Bryant comes out. He says, I want to know the part that he's going to take accountability for. 2 of 3 picks today. 2 is third in the NFL with the most interceptions thrown by a quarterback. If you haven't said this privately first and then in the media, I don't respect it. And since we're on the topic, I guarantee a lot of players don't respect Tua. Tua points the finger, and he literally has 4 pointing back at him. If you want to win, put yours in. Now, Tua did take accountability elsewhere in the press conference, but let me tell you something. People will say, hey, didn't you watch the whole press conference? Didn't you watch the whole thing? Maybe that's my job. You know, I sit there. I do watch and listen to basically every press conference. Boy, the Jalen Phillips press conference today was a rough listen. Let me tell you that much. But it's not everybody's job to hear everything everywhere. And in fact, I think that for Tua, whose responsibility, he talks almost more than anybody every week. Okay, he's the starting quarterback. All right, he knows this. He's been the starting quarterback for a very long time. His press conference is the lone player press conference that's broadcast live during the week, every single week. Okay? And I think that after all these years, you would think either he or the media department would get a hold of him and say, hey, man, love the honesty. But remember, we don't exactly live in a contextual world. We've never lived in a world with less context on anything. Ergo, just be, maybe choose your words wisely when it comes to will this blow up into something. Now, as a member of the media, look, man, thank you for making my week of shows. Like, you lay up, it's easy. Or in your case, check down to 8chan, it's easy. But I think in the matters of football or football fans, dude, why has everything had to be made a thing this year? Whether it be the beef with Cam Newton, the comments about, it doesn't matter for me if I, throw 5 picks. I don't hear the noise. I go home to my fam. It's like, great. That's a fine thing. That's an honest thing to say. I don't know if I would put it in those words. Saying Josh Allen is, twice the physical specimen that I am. I can't do half the things that he can do. It's honest. Don't know if I'd put it out there out loud, especially when my team was struggling the way that it is. And I just feel like, Tua, instead of being a fire extinguisher, has instead been gasoline on a fire this year when it comes to his words, because this is all anyone's going to talk about this week. No one's going to give a rat's ass if Tua said, hey, it's on me. I got to play better 4 minutes ago, because in the same press conference you dismounted with no one's being professional enough. So you can't come out here and be like, oh, man, you guys didn't hear me be accountable. No, dude, because you want to know why? Because you dismounted the press conference with no one goes to these meetings that we all hold on time. And so problems that were problems last year are now problems that are problems this year, except this year you're 1-5. You haven't been hurt. You've been available for every game. You're turning the ball over more than ever. And your defense stinks. You've turned the ball over at the end of games, basically half the games this season, and everything seems like a disaster. Oh, yeah, by the way, banners fly every single week for your coach and GM to be fired. So while people can get on him and say, oh, man, come on, he's just being honest. Hey, man, he took accountability early. Cool. Here's the thing, though, dude. We have never lived in a world that has where context has mattered less And so you need to be careful, more careful with your words than ever, and know that if I say this, that's going to be the thing that everybody's going to run to make a Twitter clip, make an Instagram post, make a TikTok, whatever. And if you don't have that awareness, or nobody in your media relations department doesn't have that awareness to send that message to you, which I guarantee they do, but he's, an almighty, superstar athlete who thinks, who cares? I'm going home to my kids no matter what to watch Bluey. But man, that was just like, how did you not see that coming, dude? Like, what? And look, this is the thing with Tua. It's like, okay, all these answers just start off fine. And then it just takes a detour route to Too Many Details Avenue. And I don't know. This was Mike McDaniel's reaction to the whole thing.
Some players have not been either going to players-only meetings or being late. Curious how aware of you are that, if that's what's going on, if that's something that you're worried about, any kind of fracture in the locker room, guys not buying in, whatever the case may be.
No, so, yeah, I didn't. Player-led meetings are extra things outside of, what I demand. We've been very accountable to me. It sounds like there was something on his mind with regard to the specific meetings with a couple individuals that he was trying to get corrected by being with direct communication. So, I think that's the only way to lead. As far as where we've been at as a program, I think we've opened the air on all of that, and it's very clear what our how we hold people accountable, and where my what's non-negotiable with all those things. So clearly he's sending a message, but from my standpoint, everything that I've asked of the guys, they have delivered on, and so I'm sure whomever he's talking to, they'll deliver as well, as he's a direct communicator with his teammates.
All right, none of that is great either. Which, by the way, these two have never been more like, hey, not always dialed up with one another, as they, these guys were thick as thieves, right? Mike McDaniel said, hey, man, if they're not going to Tua's extra credit sessions, that sounds like a Tua problem. He's sending a message for. But let me tell you something. Old Mike McDaniel, everyone's coming to my meetings. Now, we're still 1-5. My meetings haven't done anything here, but they're showing up on time. So that's that, and that's a crazy that's a crazy thing. But yeah, man, he also had Kurt Warner comes out, right? And he's commenting on Ed Werder commenting on this. Ed Werder said, that is a clear indictment of a head coach already in trouble. And Kurt Warner, who, by the way, I mean, this guy has done Zapruder film breakdowns of why interceptions aren't Tua's fault this year. He says, I hear your point, but being a pro means that you have a standard that you have to hold yourself accountable to no matter what. It's not expecting someone else to hold you to that standard. Get you ready and do your job and motivate you want to be and do your job or motivate you to want to be great. To blame another person, coach, etc. for your lack of professionalism is a cop-out, in my honest opinion. So I think it's one of these things where, again, Kurt's probably not hearing the whole press conference because, again, guys, people who are watching the NFL on a day-to-day basis aren't watching every 7-minute press conference. That's just not how it works. And I think that from his perspective of being like, hey, man, it's cool that you want to throw this out there, I guess, but it doesn't really matter, does it? What do you what benefit does it to have this out in the ether? You know what I mean? I think that's probably where, Kurt Warner's at. It's like, hey, just hold yourself accountable. What everybody else is doing, yeah, maybe from time to time you got to say, especially on the field, hey, we didn't play good enough. We didn't play. But to just kind of throw team dirt out there like that, and it really wasn't solicited. Omar's question really had, because that's the only context that really matters. Was Tua asked about this? It's not really. Tua was asked about, how do you keep everybody from feeling bad about this? And his answer, went down the road of, well, I'd like you guys to show up to these meetings I would call. It's like, oh, all right. I didn't see that one coming. That's a little bit strange. I didn't think we were going to get that personal on that. So, yeah, man. All in all, the problem with this is this team sucks. And because they suck, everything is a thing. And already with Tua in his career, everything was a thing. But you want to know when everything becomes even more of a thing? When you're 1-5. That's when everything becomes even more of a thing. And you need to be able to try and know the times to make things less of a thing. And the problem with Tua's comments today aren't that he made them or that they're true, which, if they're true, great. We chalk it up. Dolphins are unprofessional. Some things we already knew. It's that for a guy who should be responsible for just taking all the blame, taking all the accountability, but also quieting the noise as much as possible. He's done a pretty bad job of that this year. Whether it be the Tyreek Hill thing in the summer, where it's like, oh, no, we're not good. We are not all the way back. And then he even knew by the end of the summer, I should probably walk that back because everybody ran with that all summer. Or the Cam Newton thing, where it's like he probably could have just no-selled that, but he just had to get his licks in on that. That's been the thing that's been an issue with Tua this year, is like, hey, I think at your experience with these press conferences, I kind of think it's time for you to kind of quiet the chaos a little bit. And somehow, while your honesty is appreciated by the members of the media, I think your team and your franchise would appreciate if you could, for once, be a fire extinguisher instead of being a flamethrower every time you step to that damn microphone.